where we attempt to beat the books by finding the best value in the underdogs of the day. And before we get into today, we'll take a look at the picks from yesterday. I gave it a total of 6 picks, 3 plays, 3 leans, and we went an even total of 3-3. We hit on the A's, the Royals, and the Cubs, and we lost on the Heat, Rockies, and Mariners. But one thing to be said, that when you're trying to go after strictly underdogs, a 3-3 record is pretty good. Worst case scenario, you break even, and in all likelihood, you make a little bit of money. And even people that followed these games would probably agree that the Heat, Rockies, and Mariners all should have won. The Heat, yesterday we talked about the line change in the game. There were 4-point underdogs at about midnight, 1.5-point favorites at the time of this show, so 11 a.m. And they actually closed as 4-point favorites and probably should have won the game. They took an 18-point lead into the fourth quarter, and then they fell flat, only scored 15 points, and lost on a 3-pointer buzzer beater, which is heartbreaking. Lost by 1 point there, but if you were able to get them as the 4-point dogs, you cashed that ticket. And the baseball picks, the Rockies and Diamondbacks, the game actually went exactly as I expected. The Rockies teed off on the Diamondbacks starting pitcher, Luke Weaver, and got knocked out of the game in the 4th inning, I believe. And then the 7th inning came around, and the Rockies allowed 8 runs, which obviously kills any chance of winning. The worst part is that it was a relief pitcher who had not allowed a single hit on the season, allowed 5 runs without even recording an out. Rockies put up 7 runs. That usually should be enough to win the game, but obviously that 7th inning is killer. And the Mariners and Rangers, Mariners had a 4-0 lead in the 6th inning. They were up 4-2 in the 8th. And then they let up 5 runs in the 8th inning and obviously lost because of that. And just a side note, the BetQL was all over the Pacers beating the Rockets yesterday, and I believe they were 8-point underdogs. I didn't give it out, but if you want to get more picks like that, sign in or make an account on BetQL. Use the promo code Mazone. It's in the description. And you get plays like that. That was obviously a big underdog if you happen to have that. So now moving into today, starting with the NBA, it's obviously a weird day. 7 of the 8 playoff matchups are set. It's really just a fight for the 8th seed in the West. And with a lot of teams having literally nothing to play for today, a lot of players probably resting as the games don't matter. And, I mean, obviously it's keep a look on who's playing and who's resting. Lines will move because of it, but if you're really on top of it, you can probably get some good numbers before the lines change when all the injury reports are solid and set. But with that being said, I do have a couple of leans for the NBA. I don't want to lock anything in just yet because, like I said, the games don't matter for most teams. But one game that does matter is the Suns are fighting for their lives. They've had a miraculous run here. But even if the Mavericks don't take it seriously, I don't think the Suns are a team that we can just lock in for wins because they won a couple games in a row. So I think the Mavericks +7, especially if they decide to play their Luka and Kristaps, who I believe is listed day-to-day, but I haven't seen anything on rest yet. So +240 for the Mavericks against the Suns is something that I like, but once again, it's considering who's going to be resting. And it's actually pretty similar for the Pelicans +3, which you can get at +130 against the Magic. I know Zion's out, which makes sense. They're worried about his health, but Pelicans in general are, I believe they're the youngest team in the NBA. Could be wrong, but if not, definitely up there with the youngest. I think they need every game they can to try to create chemistry. And the Magic, I mean, they're not a great team. Neither of these teams have anything to play for. Both teams are eliminated. And so in that situation, it might be worth just laying some on the underdog, considering no one has anything to play for. Might just take the game off. But that being said, the Pelicans could potentially do the same exact thing. And so, yeah, like I said, I'm not going to lock in anything certain for today, and probably same for tomorrow, with games just having no impact on the season. But yeah, those are two leans. But now moving into baseball, where we can get games that actually do make a difference. First game, Padres and the Dodgers. You look at the starting pitching stats: Chris Paddock, 2-1 with a 3.18 ERA and a 1.01 WHIP, versus the Dodgers, Julio Urias, who is 1-0 with a 2.4 ERA and 1.27 WHIP. Now, these teams, I believe, are very similar. Dodgers have a slight edge in pitching, and the Padres have an edge at the plate, which I'll get into in a second. But one thing is I think there's just a lot of value on the Dodgers name. Just the fact that they're the Dodgers, you usually make them the favorite. But with these teams being pretty much even in my eyes, I'll take the Padres plus 125. I also think that this is indicative of the yesterday 6-0 win for the Dodgers late last night. But even with that, it was only 2-0 going into the 8th inning before, once again, relief pitching let bettors down. And so, yeah, I mean, the pitching is more or less even. Maybe Urias has a slight advantage. Maybe he's a little better pitcher, but Chris Paddock has been good this year. Nothing to complain about. But like I mentioned a second ago, I believe the value is the Padres at the plate. As you can see on the screen here, the Padres rank top 3 in the league in slugging, triples, and steals, which they are all the best in the league at. Home runs, they're number 2, and RBIs number 3. And also, the Padres do have the edge in batting average, on base percentage, OPS, and walks over the Dodgers. They're pretty much better in every stat category except for doubles. So you can take that as you will. And I mean, also, the Padres have one of the best players in the league. Fernando Tatis Jr. has been going off. And I'm not saying make a bet on an MLB team off of one player, but he is a game-changing type of player. So something to look at. And, you know, like I said, with the pitching matchup being relatively even in my eyes, I will take the edge here with the Padres being one of the best teams at the plate. And now moving on to the second game I would like to highlight, which is the Nationals versus the Mets. So the Mets are your favorite here. They're minus 130, which means the Nats are coming back at plus 110. The pitching matchup here, Austin Voth, he starting for the Nats, 0-1 on the year, but with only a 1.8 ERA and actually only has a 0.70 WHIP, which is incredible, albeit early in the year. And the Mets have David Peterson going out, who has a 2-1 record with a 3.78 ERA and a 1.32 WHIP. So Peterson's got more innings logged. Voth's been better in the innings that he has pitched. So I'm not putting too much value here at the pitching, like similar to the Dodgers game. I think it's pretty even, maybe a slight edge for one team, but even overall. And I mean, the Nationals are simply a better team, if you ask me, even with losing some key people from the World Series team. But the Peterson is a left-handed pitcher. And so far this season, the Nationals have been absolutely crushing lefties. I have the splits up on the screen. Overall, over 100-point improvement in batting average, almost double the slugging, and they'll have over a 1 OPS, which is always hard to do. And the Nationals are more or less full strength now. They got Juan Soto back, who's actually been one of the best players in the league since he's came back. They also got Howie Kendrick, who's hitting over 300, as well as Starlin Castro. So I'm looking for the Nats to jump out to an early lead here. You could probably look at them first 5 innings and get a good number 2. But at plus 110 against the Mets, against a left-handed pitcher, I like the Nationals a lot, even with Austin Voth being inexperienced on the mound. Also, the Nationals are 5th in batting average. And Peterson, I know his whip was 1.32, but almost all of those are coming off of hits. He's not really walking people, so he's pitching to contact, which it can be a good or bad thing depending on who you are. But if you're allowing a hit per inning and you're going up against a top 5 team in batting average, as well as the splits against lefties that I'm showing, I think it makes for a big day for the Nats. Not saying a blowout, but definitely the potential to put up some big numbers early in the game before they get to the bullpen. And so I looked at the rest of the MLB slate too, and I think the lines are pretty good, set out by Vegas. Didn't see a ton of value in games. There were some that you could take flyers on, but not enough confidence to put here on the show. So in recap, we had a 3-3 day yesterday, which, like I said, when you're betting strictly underdogs, there's no reason to complain about a 3-3 day. But for today, we have leans in the NBA with the Mavericks and Pelicans. But I'll say it again, watch the injury report, see who's resting, because that will make all the difference. And then in the MLB, we have the Padres at plus 125, which is a bet that I like. But probably my best bet of the day would be the Nationals plus 110 against the Mets. Pretty much for every reason that I just laid out. So 6 bets yesterday, 2 plays today, 2 leans today as well. If we can keep a 500 record, I would be happy, but I obviously want to get that up towards 60%. And so as always, bet on your own risk. I will actually not be back tomorrow, but starting next week, Monday through Friday, every day at 11. However, tomorrow, for any fight fans out there, or if you're just looking to get into UFC, I will have a UFC pre-show, 6 o'clock, taking a look at betting value throughout the Daniel Cormier and Stipe card. Arguably the biggest fight in heavyweight history, depending on how you look at it. It's the trilogy. Daniel Cormier's final fight. I'll take a look into all that. I'm not going to get too much into it now, but I will be going into all of that tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and then I'll be back Monday at 11 for more underdog plays. So, as always, thank you guys for tuning in, and hopefully I see you guys tomorrow night at 6.